Hi there, Dr. Bill Sodeman here with a fascinating episode about learning and development and what it has to do with robotics. All this and more coming up on The Perfect Route. Welcome to The Perfect Route. We are privileged today to have a guest from Robot Lab. Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, Bill. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited about this one.
Awesome.
My name is Shishir. I work at Robot Lab. I own the Robot Lab operations in the Bay Area, and Robot Lab is where we help our customers roll out new technology in robotics. So we are solving the last mile of robotics um, for our customers, and mostly focused on the commercial robotic space. Um,
And we'll be talking a little bit more about Robot Lab as we go through today's episode. I'm sure our viewers and listeners will be keen to know of all the services that your company provides. So let's get rolling with your origin story. How did you get so interested in learning and development?
Oh yeah, it's been a lifelong theme, sort of. I mean, I started, right during college. I got into engineering, so I did an electronics engineering degree. When I came out of that, there weren't really a ton of jobs that I could find related to that, very specific. So while I was waiting, I switched into, my first job was providing technical support over the phone for Sony laptops, which required me to, learn a bunch. Um, I've made quite a few career pivots. So from that, I switched into instructional design, where I was developing training content for companies like Hitachi, Microsoft, Shell, all the top companies in the world. So that job was literally learning things quickly enough that I'm able to explain that or teach that to somebody. So create a course out of it. So that was an interesting career um, duration that I had, where I got a chance to just learn a bunch of new stuff. And the main thing that I learned there was how to learn. And that made me like that's something that I found exciting. Oh, that I could just learn something really quickly. And I found that exciting. I did that for a while and then switched into the program management side of things because I found that part a little bit more interesting, but I was talking to customers all the time. So I pivoted into program management and consulting for training. So I've been in the training and development space for the last couple of decades. Um, Through that period, I also made a few pivots into consulting, but working with different clients. So spaces like medical, utility companies, energy, oil and gas, and then switched over. And I found that tech was really interesting. Like when I moved to the Bay Area, I found that a really interesting space here, and I decided to move into tech companies. So I made another career pivot and became a scrum master and, working with software development teams for a while. So up until recently, earlier this year, I was at a tech company launching their software products. But I think to answer your question about learning and development, it's just been a theme all through. And what I found is, like, you could just learn a thing and then become whatever you want to become. Um, yeah, because we all when we if you talk to somebody and they went to college for maybe engineering or medical, and that you go into a college, nobody's born a doctor or an engineer. You go into structured program, you learn something, you come out of it, and they're like, hey, I'm a lawyer now, or I'm a doctor now, and people kind of feel that that's the end of their journey and that's their identity for the rest of their life. But if you really think about it, you could literally just learn another thing and become something else and change your career completely. So I found that to be fascinating.
Yeah, that personal transformation that happens in learning and development is always fascinating to watch. And I'm intrigued by how you think your journey has transformed you.
I got to learn a lot about myself. Through this whole process, the transformation that has happened, the biggest for me is that I don't think that I have a fixed identity. And then I just think about, I always try to remind myself that I can just keep a completely open mind. Like in this new space of AI and robotics, I could have simply said like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm a program manager. I'm not technical. That's not the stuff I do, and I'm done with it." But I consciously took a decision and looked at which way is the industry going, where's technology going. I'm like, oh, that might be very interesting because earlier in my career, right after I did my engineering degree, the plan was originally to go and do an MBA and get into business. That never happened for me due to various reasons. So, a couple decades later, I decided, oh, this is the time. So I actually went to University of Illinois, got a business degree from the Geese College, and so I've always had that thing. And I'm like, okay, so what's my next career transition? Like, what's the next season of my life?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was, hey, it's business and entrepreneurship. Um, so I'm constantly asking myself that question of what do I want to do in the next 5 years or next decade, and what season is that? And I think that has been the biggest change because I keep learning about things, trying new things. I get to meet new people, and then when I look back at it, it all comes back to, oh, I made a decision that day to go ahead and apply for that degree. Or I made a decision that day to go reach out to somebody, and that turned into something. And I'm like, oh, it's all, if I look back, everything is dependent on that one conscious decision that I made, and that changed the trajectory. So the biggest change for me has been I can just choose the path. I
Mm-hmm.
just need to be careful about what path I choose because there's an opportunity cost and switching costs and all of that. But I just don't feel constrained with with my environment or my current situation. So I'm always looking at what's next. What else is there that is exciting that I've not tried before that I want to do next? Yeah.
You found a great deal of variety with learning and development with all the different organizations and positions that you've held.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and is there one area in particular, maybe an organization or a position that really influenced you?
I think when I started working when I made the transition into the program management side of things for training and development, that gave me a chance to work with multiple different customers at the same time. So I'll be like an account manager for Bank of America, and we're developing like 50 different courses for them. But on the other side, I'm also talking to my other customer, which is Shell. And there we're developing a course that is 3D and VR, and it's a video based course. Um, but I'm also getting a chance to talk to the customer, to work with sales teams and legal in all parts of the business. So I think the biggest influence that I on me was that part of the business where I started doing program management and I started looking at the end to end process, the entire journey of the business. So that's how I got more interested in like, oh, I enjoy working with security teams, but legal also, and sales also is an interesting thing. It's all different types of people that I work with, but I got to be that conductor of the train that is making sure things happen on time, and I'm trying to coordinate all the pieces. Or you could be a conductor of an orchestra, but I'm looking at now working with many people, all different teams, people very specialized, but I'm getting a chance to get a flavor of everything and understand all parts of the business and bring it all together. So I found that very exciting. And that kind of became the theme for me. And for the longest time, I was in program management, just leading global programs across companies, where I also got a chance to, in my previous company where I was working here in San Francisco, I got a chance to be in the meetings with the C-suite and the CEO, but also the teams out in the field, but also the customer service teams. And I
Mhm.
got a chance to talk to everybody and work with people at all levels in the company, and just try to understand how different teams think, what their incentives are and how to align incentives, and learned a lot about just people in general.
And in our previous conversations, one big thing that I took away was your your ability to be agile and still hold to a process, which is a delicate balance.
It is, yes. And which was the most fun part of, again, being in program management. And if you take an example of maybe a tech company, and I'm working on with different teams, and I'm working with very technical people and software development teams, and all we're trying to do is, hey, we have to launch a product. And it's always a balance. And it always comes down to motivating the people and making sure everybody is clear on the vision.
Mm-hmm.
So it may feel as if it's really difficult to be agile, but it becomes easy if you align everybody on the end goal, but give them the flexibility to figure out a way to get there. So then it's easier to manage, because if I'm working with 3 different teams, they're going to bring in their expertise. They know their subject. I cannot go and tell them, hey, develop this software this way, or create a marketing plan this way, or do this way. But I can align them on, here's the end goal we have for our company, but for our customers, and this is what we're trying to do to help. Now we run into a situation where, hey, we don't really see a path to get there, or the project's going to be delayed by a certain amount of time, or we ran into a problem here. Here's a technical challenge we hadn't thought of. Fair enough. Let's go back and look at what's our end goal. End goal is to make this product better for our customers, and we're trying to move this particular metric for our customers that they can. So when I was at Zendesk, one of the metrics was the Zendesk is a product that customer support agents use to help their customers. So now in our mind, we have to always be aware, what are we trying to do for that customer service agent? Or we're trying to make it easier for them to respond to tickets in a more efficient way and quickly get to it. How can we reduce the number of clicks, or how do we improve the product? So then if you look at the release and we're like, oh, we're not able to get to that release at this time because we promised 7 different features. Okay, what can get us closer? Or we can deliver these 5 features because these are higher value features. Let's prioritize. And then you again give the teams the ability to decide what is priority. Of course, the role of a product manager there helps, because that's the person trying to help prioritize. But again, as a program manager, when I'm dealing with all the other teams within the company, I have to align all the pieces, because this release needs to go out. It's going to have pieces of communication that have to happen. There has to be customer communication. There has to be a press release that goes out. Different things are going to happen. Let's just make sure we're clear on what we are doing, and let's communicate to everybody so then they are able to adjust their plans. So the ability to stay agile just comes down to, are we clear on what we're trying to achieve? But then give people the flexibility to figure out the path to get there. It's not really a parallel, but an example that comes to mind always when I think about it, and I don't know where I read it, but it's like when you have an army to lead. If you're leading a huge army, you cannot have a clear plan for every single thing. For if you have an army of 50,000, you're not going to have a clear plan, and you cannot tell everybody exactly what to do. There's just no way to do that. So a good leader would show them the goal and let them figure out the most efficient way to get there. And that's like decentralized control. But you make everybody a leader and give them the responsibility, and trust them, and they will go and conquer. You just give them the objective, and you sit back and provide them the resources they need. So it's sort of, I think of it in a similar way.
And something just popped into my head. My doctorate's in business strategy, and one of the first things they hammered into my head was that the word strategy comes from the Greek word strategos, which means to wage war.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Very
It-
interesting.
yeah. And there's a rich history and strategy, Sun Tzu, um, military strategists, and, at late 1800s and throughout the 1900s, we changed that to apply to businesses and organizations. So I'm impressed with the clarity of how you express strategy as opposed to the vision. They should work hand in hand in a great organization. They do. And it strikes me that learning and development is an important part of that in engaging the employee, and in your case, also engaging the customer in that learning journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think yeah, that is key. Engaging the employees, engaging the customers, and it all comes down to education. Because you're like, if you take an example of like new technology that we're rolling out at Robot Lab, we have robots that do cleaning of the floors, or you would deliver food inside a restaurant, or deliver goods in a warehouse. Anything that you knew that you roll out, and that strategy would tie in into why are we doing this. You have to explain to your employees, because everything becomes a change management problem,
Mm-hmm.
and people do have a certain way they like to do things, and human nature is that we get into habits. So everything is about changing someone's habits, or the way of working, doing things differently. um, and learning and education, that becomes such a key, because you are, first of all, educating them on why this is important, and then giving them the skills to start using the new tool or the new process, assuming there's a process in place already. And if there isn't, then it's again a good opportunity to introduce a new process, and teach the people the right way to do things. But it has to be aligned with, like, before you roll something out, you have to clearly understand how people do things um, in a certain way, and for what reason. Be in, put yourself in their shoes, understand that, and then see what would be the most efficient. Like, what is it in their job that they would really enjoy replacing with AI or robotics or any other tool, so they can do the other parts of their job which they enjoy more. And then, yeah, it comes back to education. That's what we've seen. All successful deployments are where we've really spent the time in training the customer, and the training and the customer um, stakeholder that we have understands the importance of training and development, and is ready to invest the time for their people to spend the time to learn about the new thing and the new process. Those are where we've seen successful deployments for robots, but also for software products that I released, in my previous company. Uh, all the successful deployment, the feature that got adopted the most, was where we actually really thought about how would we train the people who need to start using this new feature, or start doing these things in a new way, and change their behavior. What's the incentive for them?
Especially in very competitive industries where the technology and the markets change quickly. um Robotics has been like that for years, if not decades, and now we've got AI thrown into the mix, which is just making that
Yeah.
technology and innovation flywheel spin even faster. um what sort of challenges does that pose for you?
First of all, it's hard to keep up, even for us.
Mhm.
Like, when we have a new robot model that comes out, and we think like this is the best thing ever, and we start rolling that out, and next thing you know, there's another version of a different robot or a different manufacturer that comes out. And so, when we're manufacturer agnostics, all we're trying to do is trying to connect our customers with the best particular robot for their situation. So it's a learning and development challenge for us as well. We have a team of about 50 people who just focuses on R&D and developing these standard operating procedures or the training content and supporting materials, and who are testing the robots. They're trying to just keep up. And so, and us, like with the knowledge that we have around robotics and the knowledge that we have of all the different manufacturers that are out there and the technologies, even we find it challenging. So I think for me personally, what I found is it's a constant challenge, trying to just keep up. Hard, and it's hard to predict. Like I really don't think anybody has the answers right now, but all we can do is look at what's the best thing available out there, which way is the market moving, how is the technology changing, and what is it that we can solve for today reliably. And that's what it comes down to. So yes, you can look at these demos that you see every other day of a new robot that came out. It can do, it's got a new, really new developed hand, which is really dexterous and which is able to do a lot of things, but it's a long way to go before this thing can actually be rolled out broadly. But it's good to keep an eye on like how quickly the things are changing. But then it's also important to see what is it that's not changing as much, and what is it today that people don't enjoy doing, what activities they don't enjoy doing, and can we replace those mundane, repeated activities with robots so that people are able to spend the time on activities they enjoy doing at work. Yeah.
There's a fair amount of upskilling involved in what you're doing. And I'm glad that you have mentioned the quality of work life, which I don't think we spend enough time thinking about in learning and development. A happy employee is more likely to be an engaged employee when it comes to learning. Frustrated employees often throw up their hands, they give up and say, what's the point? Which, Robot Lab and any company that's involved in, a vendor neutral approach, that's poison.
Yeah. It's a little tricky, for sure. But then I agree with your point that it comes down to happy employees, and which goes back to the company and the leadership. Are they invested in their employees? I mean, you could see that there's a reason why a company like Costco may be a better better experience for customers than some other comparable brand, just because that the employees at Costco are happier. And they're probably happier because, and I don't know the internals of it, but from what I can tell, I think they spend a lot of time on training their people, ensuring the employees are really happy with the type of work they're doing, and they get a really good work environment. And when that is the case, happy employees lead to happy customers, because you go there and you can feel the difference, compared to some other store you would go to, and that they're engaged and they're happy, and you would want to come there because, again, in our case of when we work with restaurants and we deploy a robot, for example, that is a delivery robot that's going to bring your food from the kitchen to the table and then take the dirty dishes back from the tables back to the dishwashing station in the kitchen. Now, that's one activity, is just bringing food back and forth, carrying heavy plates. That may not be as value adding in the workflow of the things that the employee does. But in a lot of cases, when there are employees that are wait staff that work with customers, and they enjoy talking to the customers, they enjoy giving them a really good experience, they're probably not adding a lot of value when they're just bringing the food back and forth because they're not present there. Now, with a robot, if a restaurant deploys a robot, and many of our customers have, they see that, first of all, the food gets there faster. because as soon as it's ready, they send it. They don't wait for it to be a huge plate ready with all the food ready before they bring it in. But all the food can, as soon as it's ready, they can send it. The wait staff is spending more time in the area where the customers are around the tables, and they're able to spend more time with them and pay more attention to a customer needing something or somebody with an empty cup of coffee. And a customer's almost ready to leave, so they've got a check ready. So the customer's not like asking for people like, oh, can somebody come take my order or any of that. So you've got happier employees, you've got happier customers because they're getting better attention. That leads to higher tips for the employees.
Mm-hmm.
That leads to even better, even happier employees. So it's a win-win where you're looking at the entire process, taking a part of it and looking at it as, okay, what's the least value-adding activity that people don't enjoy doing? Can we just replace that part? Now, the technology might change in the future, and we might have the latest Optimus robot that comes out and does a bunch of things, but like this particular piece is not going to change that quickly or anytime soon. You're still going to have restaurants. People would still crave going to a restaurant for that experience they get. So that's what we focus on.
It's a virtuous cycle. And, from what I've read and talking with people who've been in workplaces where robots were rolled out, the initial reaction is this robot's going to take my job.
Yeah.
And it's going to take pieces of your job that you may not enjoy or you find strenuous and repetitive so that you can do higher order tasks that not only add value, but are more pleasing to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me give you an example. We've got a customer, a US bank. That bank has a facility where they process millions of dollars in checks every month. And it's not a regular bank. It's just that facility that processes all the paperwork. Due to the nature of the documents, they cannot be handled by anyone below a certain level, say a VP. In the previous world, you had these VPs or a certain level of employees who would process the paperwork and then they would carry it. And it's a huge facility. It's like multiple football fields big. We went in, we worked with that customer, we deployed 5 robots there. Now, in the current situation, the robots are just moving on a path. So we've got a pre-programmed path all around the building, and the robots just keep moving, and they stop at each cubicle where the checks are being processed. And when they're processed, the robot shows up. They hand the package onto the robot. They just place it there, and the robot's just going to take it to the specific room where it has to be delivered. Now, that handling is not being done by the employees that did not enjoy doing that activity. They can spend more time on more value-adding activities, and we remove that constraint of the paperwork being handled by someone who's not at a certain clearance level, because you've got the robots doing this, and you've got the robots with doors on them, so that it just closes, and you basically put the packages in there. It does a thing. They loved it so much, they added another extra robot just to bring people snacks around. But that's an example of an activity that people had to do because of a certain compliance reasons or the process needs. But that is the activity that we replace. And now, and the level of criticality of the importance of the robots now in their process, they're so integrated that they cannot function without them. So for that specific customer, we always have one robot on standby. So if something breaks, for example, they can always just replace it quickly and put a new robot in while we handle the repairs or diagnostics of the other robot. But it's become so critical to their operations that they are using that. They cannot do without it. And I think my guess would be give it a year or so, where if employees in a restaurant, if employees have worked at a restaurant where they use delivery robots, those employees may not want to work at another restaurant if they do not have um, a robot team member. That would be my guess. Again, nobody can predict, but it seems like if I were an employee who enjoyed working in a workplace where a robot made my life easy, that would be one of the criteria I would keep in mind when I try to find the next job.
And employee retention is always one of the goals we've got with internal learning and development, customer
Mhm.
retention with external learning and development. It sounds like you're well on the pathway to um, helping your customers reach those goals.
Yes, retention is definitely one of the things that we care about. The customers care about, and when the customers care about that, we do as well. Um, Absolutely, I think you hit it right on the head.
Y- something that I hear from friends and colleagues, and I referenced this earlier, is robotics is scary. Robots will put us out of a job. And if anything, it sounds like robots will not only help us with our tasks, they'll help us stay in an organization, especially when that organization not only aligns with our personal values, that organization actually has more opportunity to help us fulfill our career goals and um, make it a better workplace, not only for us, but for the customers.
Uh, yeah, I agree with that completely. I think the fear um, that people have of like robots are going to take our jobs away, or um, robots are here to replace us. Those are not really true, but they also stem from the fact that it's just this time around the change is happening really, really fast.
Hmm.
That it's just the speed of the change that is staggering, because it just feels like, how do we even keep up? And then the next, we just project that into we just try to extrapolate, and we're like, oh my god, robots are going to replace everybody. I think that happened with all the other technologies that we had in the past. It just happened at a slower rate. So it's the
Hmm.
rate of change that is scary. But the way I think about it, or my recommendation to anybody, would be just learn a bit more about this new technology and get yourself more familiar. Then you will know what the limitations are, or what the capabilities are, and you might find a new interest. You might find something exciting there that might pull you in, and then you're becoming an expert in this field. Nobody knows. Same applies to AI in general. That where we found it, just both AI and robotics are allowing companies and people to do more with less. So more than, hey, it's going to replace my job, it's giving the companies a chance to do a bit more with the same amount of people, without like just hiring a lot more. So if I was talking to a tech company, they have, in the Bay Area, they have multiple office buildings, and and every company has the same pressure. How do you do more with less? How do you do more with the same amount of people? And in this case, they have these large buildings, multiple floors. Um, they they have their cleaning staff that comes in and does all the cleaning. They are not even able to get to the level of cleaning they want unless they just hire more people. But the companies don't want to increase their cost. And these companies or these buildings are usually managed by another company that just does the cleaning and maintenance and the entire, it, if it's a tech company, it's not their own people who are running this. Now, they are also under the pressure of like, how do we do more with the same amount of people? So robots are just helping the same staff do a lot more. Now, if the building is expanding, if that tech company is expanding the footprint of the area and adding another like 5 different floors to the next area, they don't want to hire more people to start addressing that building as well in terms of cleaning. They would like to reduce, or they would like to keep the same amount of people and do more. So if you add a robot every 2 floors, and your people now in the janitorial staff become, instead of janitors, they are now like the robot manager, who are able to learn a new skill, learn how to use these robots, and then they get to a floor, they let the robot loose. Robot's going to do its thing. They can handle the rest of the cleaning, which the robot cannot do still, right? Like the tables and the chairs and the windows and all of that. And by the time they're done with it, the robot's done. It's at the elevator, sends you a text message saying, "I'm ready to be taken to the next floor," and then they basically go to the next floor and it does its thing. So with the same amount of people, they're able to do a lot more efficiently. If it's a cleaning company who only has commercial cleaning contracts, they can do a lot more with the same amount of people. If they add robots to their mix, that doesn't mean they're gonna get rid of the people that they have currently. They might be able to handle 10 customers instead of the 5 large customers they have today. They might be able to increase their revenue by adding a few robots. So it's not about replacing the jobs. It's more about doing the job more efficiently. And what can you do with this new tool that you could not do before?
And there's that tension between efficiency, which is doing things right, and effectiveness, which is doing the right thing. Robots sound like they balance the two.
They do. They help a lot with that. They bring consistency. They solve the problem that you have. Now, if there's a hotel chain that, for hotels, for example, we see that the most important activity for them is turning the rooms over quickly. Make sure the room is after it's empty, the room is empty, it's been checked out. How quickly can you get it ready to be rented out again? That is the most important revenue generating activity for them. With the given amount of the staff that they have, first of all, robots are for the hotel owners, the GMs are finding it hard to even be fully staffed. They don't have enough people. And when they do, they'd rather have those people get the rooms ready than have them go and start vacuuming the large hallways in a 13 story building. That's where the robots come in. So with the current, in a lot of cases, when you talk to hotel owners, they're not even able to get to cleaning all the areas consistently. So this is a problem of consistency that we're solving. So if you just walk into the next hotel that you walk into, just take a look around. You're going to be able to notice, again, hotels try really hard to keep it clean, but then you've got the high traffic areas on the main floor, the first floor, but then you've got all the other hallways, which are usually carpeted. They're not even able to get to them on a consistent 3 times a day, 2 times a day cleaning. But if the same hotel now, if a hotel, for example, has 10 people who are just focused on cleaning, they were trying to do the whole thing now. Now, with the same amount of people plus a robot, they can turn the rooms around faster because they're not wasting one person's time just trying to vacuum the large areas. So that you're turning the rooms around faster, but you're getting a level of cleaning that was not possible before. Even if you had like dedicated like 3 people on a floor, how consistent can you be and for how long if you're trying to clean it manually? Robot, on the other hand, is programmed to go and clean that thing 3 times a day, and it would just do it. It'll just go back, charge, and can do it. And you just get a level of cleaning that was not there before. So it's not even so in this case, what we're solving is a problem of like a consistent cleaning, the level of cleaning you get. And then your people are happier because they're working on those other activities which are not boring or monotonous. and then the management company that's running a hotel, or if it's actually run by a corporate, they're happy because they have a better net operating income because they have more efficiency in how they use the same amount of people, and maybe they can staff them at different hours or play around with the resourcing a little bit better.
And we're back to that virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts for our listeners and viewers?
I think these are exciting times ahead. There is a lot of change, and the best way to adapt to the change or understand it is to by getting involved. So, and I think most of the people are doing that today. Everybody's heard of ChatGPT, so they're if nothing else, they're just spending some time working with some sort of chat tool. If they're not programming, they're doing something else. Somebody's using Replit versus other tool. The robots are out there. I think people should, when they get a chance, just see these robots in action. Because what we're finding a lot is it's just an awareness and an education problem at this time, where people are not aware of the level of sophistication and consistency and the capabilities that are available with robotics. I just met with a customer last week, and once they saw the demo, they were completely blown away by the capabilities. They're like, we didn't even think it was possible. Just seeing that in action. So I think for your listeners or anybody who may be interested in, just thinking about the future, because everybody's either thinking about their own future if you're young, or if you're like me, I have a young 5-year-old. How do I train? How do I prepare my son for the future that's coming and the change that's happening really fast? So I think if everyone can think of just getting more aware about what's going on, spend more time learning about things, and then form an opinion about how things might change. Because you hear a lot of things, but take time to learn about things and then make your own informed opinion of what's out there. And you might find a few opportunities there. You might find a new business idea there when you see certain capabilities.
Wonderful. Where should viewers and listeners go to find out more about Robot Lab?
They can go to robotlab.com, and we have more than 30 something locations around the country, including Hawaii. So just reach out to your local Robot Lab location. They'd be happy to bring a robot around and show you guys one in action, answer any questions you may have.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us today. I'm Dr. Bill Sodeman. You can find out more about my coaching and learning and development advisory services at n3ed.com. And thanks for taking another step with us on The Perfect Route.